Hey everyone, it's Laura here, and I thought it'd be super fun to show you how to make this really fun card using the June stamp of the month from Close to My Heart called I Heart Summer. Now, it has been designed as a border stamp set. However, I'm more than happy to get my scissors in here and cut off the sentiment and the little icons to make them individual pieces. So this is my set here, and I've actually cut off the pieces to make them individual rather than keep it as a border, because ultimately you can still peel it back off that block and join it all back together and make it a border on a block. You don't have to keep it as separate pieces. So it's actually really ideal. And then I've also used this brushstroke stamp set. So this stamp set is on special this month, June, with the Stamptacular sale. Instead of 20 Australian dollars, it's only 13. So I'm actually using the happy birthday off this and a couple of the little brushstroke icons to colour in those images. So what you'll need to make this card is 4 pieces of white daisy cardstock cut at 1 5/8 by 1 5/8, and then 4 black ones to matter at 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, a black piece at 3 3/4 by an inch, and the white daisy is 3 5/8 by 7/8. Then you just need a piece of scrap white daisy, and this here is to stamp all the icons on. So I'm just stamping them all in Memento Black. Otherwise, Intense Black is also the other black I would use. And to be fair, I've actually re-inked all of my Memento stamp pads with Intense Black ink. It's just perfect for all of my outline stamping. So these are all the little icons that I had cut off separately, but I could obviously join them all back together and create them as a border. And then instead of colouring in with a text or anything, I'm using these particular brushstroke patterns to basically colour in the images. So this is the Sundance, and I'm just going to use this little strokey piece, and I'm just going to stamp that on my bucket twice, and it's going to go outside the lines, and that's okay. Okay, we're getting this whole ununiform image stamping. It looks really cool and it's really effective. So I'm going to go through and stamp each of these ones. So the next one is the green apple, and this is going to be the ball. And I'm using the longer brush stroke, and because I'm going to be cutting these out, it doesn't matter that it goes over the outside. It really doesn't. And then I'm just going to use this little splotchy dotty one to add in some extra little dots and flair inside that ball. And it really honestly does not matter if you go outside of the image, okay? Because once you trim it down and cut it with your scissors, it looks fabulous. All right, next we have Carolina, and this one is going to be for the bag. And again, I'm just using that little tiny brush stroke one, and it's just going to use it twice on the bag. And again, it's going to be missing pieces. There's going to be some white showing, and it really, really doesn't matter. So it does not matter if you can move past the perfection of having to color in the lines and actually do it completely the opposite. The look is just brilliant. And for the last one, for the flamingo little blow up, I'm using peach. And again, just the big long one. And this time I'm going to stamp this one twice because I need to get his head as well as his body. Then I'm going to grab my micro tip scissors, and I'm just going to cut off each of them individually, and then I'm going to cut around them so that I cut my little icons out. The micro tip scissors from Close to My Heart are amazing. They are so sharp, and the fact I love these Teflon coated ones so they don't get stuck to any of the sticky I'm ever cutting. So it means I can go from cutting out my icons to my double-sided adhesive, and it's totally fine. For the little white daisy squares, what I did was I just continued with these 4 colours that I'd used previously. So the peach, Carolina, green apple and Sundance. And I took the Fun in the Sun, and again I cut this off of the border to make it a single icon, and it fits absolutely perfectly between both edges of the square, so the 1 5/8 by 1 5/8 square. And then I just random stamped the I uniformly stamped it above each other, but I just stamped the whole background. So I background stamped using that sentiment, and then I just rubbed the edges in the matching ink color just to give the edges a nice color, and then one of the icons goes on top of it. So I went ahead and did this with the icon on all 4 squares, so one of each color, and got them all ready for the icons to sit on. And it's so fun taking that white daisy and turning it into little background decorative papers. Each of these squares, the 1 5/8 by 1 5/8 squares, fit on the 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 squares. and then they're going to be ready to go onto the card. So that's the big bulk of the card basically ready. The last thing to do is to stamp the happy birthday sentiment. So just to tie it all in with those 4 colours, I'm sticking with the 4 colours that are on the first 4 squares, and I'm going to use them to then stamp the sentiment over and over again onto my white daisy strip. And so I'm just repeating the pattern. So I'm doing the peach, Carolina, green apple, Sundance. And I chose Sundance as the outline of the paper because the Sundance, I think, it just had to pick one colour. And the Sundance is at the top of the card, so I was happy to have it again at the bottom of the card. And I didn't want the peach repeated because it was a bit lighter. And so there you go. That's how easy it is to create this card. So what I would do now that I've got all of the components ready is I start sticking them onto my card. So I'm just trying to get the right spacing at the top, and then I just use the sentiment one to get the correct spacing from left to right. And now that they're stuck on, I can put the icons on them, and that is the card complete. So super simple, just a bit of repetitive stamping, but a really fun birthday card.